Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. We have been out of town at the Middleburg Film Festival, and I am back to review episode 4 of Creepshow on Shudder. So, as I've said in my previous reviews, I am absolutely loving this show. I feel like it embodies everything that I enjoy about horror and about horror anthology in the original film, and I think this episode is another example of really well-crafted horror in a short story format. So the first story in this episode may have been one of my favorites so far. They've all been really good, but I loved The Companion. This one is directed by David Bruckner, who also directed Man in the Suitcase, which I thought was another very original and quirky story to be telling in this horror style. And this one focuses around a boy who finds a scarecrow that comes to life and wants to kill people. It is that simple. This is basically your story of a child finding a mythical creature or a magical creature, but turned on its head because they spark something that is really evil and not your average friendly little character. I think this story had some really great atmosphere. It takes place almost entirely at night in a farmhouse setting, a classic horror setting of a dilapidated farmhouse. You're creeping around, you're trying to hide from this creature. There's a lot of classic tracking shots and chase shots that you expect from a movie like this, something with a lot of energy, like something from Sam Raimi. I like that. I like how we're seeing the predatory aspects of this monster, and then it kind of gets flipped on its head at the end. This is another fine example of a use of practical effects. This show has really championed the idea of trying to keep things as practical as possible, and you see that a lot in the scarecrow in this episode. I thought he was really creepy and really original. It wasn't your traditional, run-of-the-mill scarecrow, like kind of what you saw in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I also liked. I thought Harold was a good scarecrow, but this one was really cool with the big animal jaw and just the things about it that made it very unsettling. It wasn't your normal scarecrow character. And even while this is taking place at a short amount of time, obviously these are short little stories to be told, it felt like the lore of the character was fleshed out, especially when they flash back to the creation of it. And I think the writing for this episode really makes you feel immersed in this short event. It feels like a long, storied history of how this thing came to be and what it represents. It almost feels like it could be a feature-length film or a franchise you see moving on, like a Pumpkinhead or something like that. There's not a lot of fluff, but just enough explanation to really make you enticed. So at the end of the day, I thought it was a really good episode. Really tight, really original, and I liked the direction they went with it. So the second part of this episode, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started watching it, I wasn't fully on board, and by the end, I really enjoyed it. I think it was another really solid outing. So Linda Layne's Better Half, directed by Roxanne Benjamin. As far as I know, this has been the first story that has been directed by a woman, and you could really feel that touch to it. You could see how they were taking the ideas of feminism and women power, kind of turning it on its head, showing how this can be used in a hypocritical sense. Linda Layne is a very powerful CEO who does not want to share her power. She's kind of taking her lover and pushing her aside, not letting her fully reach her potential because maybe she does feel threatened by her. She doesn't want her to have to go out and have her own journey. She wants to keep her under her thumb, and then her power manifesting in kind of a malicious way and causing this horrific event, killing her lover. The beginning of that was just really powerful. The symbolism of what all that means as a power structure and kind of a matriarchy in business. And I like that this story has a little bit of social commentary to go along with the horror. I think that horror is a great medium when you want to talk about social commentary. You're able to take normalized things and make them very extreme, very in your face. And you see that here. You even see the symbolism of her Woman of the Year trophy killing her lover, her falling onto it, and then that thing haunting her as it keeps coming out. It keeps being in her face that this has caused you to kill the person that you care about most, seemingly. And while this episode does have some really graphic and gory elements to it, it strives more on the thrill and tension of the story. This is more of a thriller than your slasher horror ones that you've seen in previous episodes. I thought the claustrophobia of being trapped in an elevator really amplifies the feelings of being there as the character. The actress playing Linda, Tricia Helfer, did a fantastic job. She has a long history of doing television shows, either Battlestar Galactica or recently on Lucifer, and I like that this streaming service has been bringing in some really, really good actors. It hasn't been a ton of just throwaway performances that didn't feel like they had a lot of effort behind them. She puts a ton of effort into this role, and her just being this person who's breaking down emotionally and just becoming paranoid and hallucinating, or is she hallucinating, and seeing ghosts, seeing things in her vision that are just totally destroying her kind of perfect world around her. I think she nailed the role. As far as the claustrophobic setting of the elevator, I thought the lighting that's involved in that worked really well. Her having that conversation back and forth with the firefighter, not being able to really express what's going on because she put herself in that situation. I don't know, just that kind of tension of not being able to get help, but you can almost have help, but you're trapped in this elevator with a dead body that's just haunting you. I don't think anything could be more uncomfortable than that. And you feel that uncomfortableness portray through in this story. There's also a lot of verticality to the way that this episode is shot. Normally, I'm used to my still frames, my classic tracking shots, the normal stuff that you see in television and movies. But this one, we get a lot of zooms in and out. You're kind of being trapped into this tight space and expands out, and you go up and down in the elevator shaft. I like that aspect. It adds a little different element to the story. So all in all, I thought this was another really solid episode. Very different. I like that each individual story is feeling so distinctly different from one another. I'm waiting on it. I feel like there's going to be some that are maybe kind of repetitive or we have seen before, but each one has been so tight and concise, and that is when anthology series really excels. When you can have these completely different stories encapsulated in one franchise or in one film. And I think Creepshow has been absolutely nailing it so far. I love it on Shudder. I hope that it gets picked up for multiple seasons. I just saw that it had broken records for opening streaming, something like that. I really thought that, it was really good, and I guess everyone else thinks it's really good. So just, remember, guys, to like and subscribe. Comment down below what your favorite episode has been so far. What's your favorite story? I know every time I feel like each one has been raising the level on how good it is. But yeah, I just want to hear those comments down below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.